You're probably better off. But I'm Rocky Horn. I was the announcer at Western Speedway for some 30 plus years, and now the part-time announcer at Saratoga Motorsports Park. I did the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies for probably 10 or 15 years, and the last one I did was in 2014. So if you came here looking to meet, greet, or rub elbows with sports and radio personality Cliff LeCain, I apologize. The executive and committee members of the Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame and Museum welcome everybody here for the 40th induction ceremony and celebration. This would not have happened without the input and insight of Ross Rocket and Norm Wilcox. Had they not begun discussing racing history on Vancouver Island, we wouldn't be here this afternoon. The idea of recognizing the accomplishments of past people of the race community was presented to a group of Western Speedway persons of note on June the 22nd of 1984. That first meeting, presented to a group of Western Speedway persons, was attended by Ross and Norm, Bill Smith Sr., Ted McKenzie, Frank Kiddo, and Barry Goodwin, who photographed the moment. This Hall of Fame was the first of its kind in Canada and solely dedicated to the sport of auto racing. We're here today to honor, celebrate, and present trophies and plaques to the inductees and pioneers, but there's also people behind the scenes that make this all happen. So we'd like to acknowledge their contributions. Thank you to the following. Our own Tracy Sesford, from the executive for procuring Elements Casino for our event, and also to the staff of the casino here today for allowing us in the facility and to make the afternoon enjoyable for us. Of course, Barb Handysides, who has for several years spent so much time and effort gathering and assisting us in acquiring great items for our silent auction and door prizes, and we encourage you to bid high. Elaine Trapp, Caitlin Iddens-Babin, and Sharon Ferguson for producing the programs. Westside Instaprint for printing tickets, programs, booklets, and the information to put on the induction plaques. Dwight Lockhart, who also does the plaque artwork, and Illuminate This for producing the plaques. This year we'd also like to thank Barb Handysides for bringing a television crew here today to televise the induction ceremony. And if we left anybody out, we'd like to know that you're not forgotten, and we appreciate your contributions for today and to the celebration. Thank you to everyone who continues to support the Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame and Museum. Our displays and artifacts have been stored or returned to their owners, but we look forward to the time when we can once again display them for everybody to enjoy. For now, we're grateful that our racing community still has a place to participate and watch the sport we love. Thanks to Rob Layton and his family, the island still has Saratoga Motorsports Park, and from what I hear, it's the place to be. Committee, once again, thanks everyone for attending here this afternoon. I would also like to thank the staff of Elements once again. So give Elements a big hand. I'd like to introduce the Hall of Fame committee, starting in the back. President Dave Ferguson. Stand up, Dave. Oh, yes, sorry. Vice President George the Jet Jensen. The do-all for one call, Jim Mackay. She gets to tell George what to do and helps out with everything else important. V. Jensen. The money manager, the do-all, and the point-and-shoot person, Debbie Smith. To her left, has to sit to her left because she's married to him, Dave Smith. And right at the end, Tracy Sesford. Thank them for all of their hard work. And you mentioned the cake at the back there from Carmen's Creative Kitchen, and the little vintage sprint car on there that was built by Trevor Bowers. You guys want to definitely take a look at those. So we're going to get things going this afternoon, and we're going to have our Pioneer presentations. And we have a couple of those today. First, I'm going to start with our pioneers, the Courier brothers. Eldest brother Mike started racing in 1958, working on cars driven by Wally Lum. Two of his brothers and Ron Hancock. First John and then Bill, followed by Pat. They joined Mike until 1963. They were all involved. Pat worked on Bob Bissenden's car for several years. At one point, John and Pat were on one car, the Daffodil Stalker, and Mike was on the other, the Tulip Twister. John and Bill were well known through driving stock cars, figure eights, and later old-timers. Mike and Pat both worked at the back gate. Bill and Pat were all involved as assistant pit bosses throughout the years. Away from the track, they were involved in the Bank Around Track Racing Association and its executive committee. Mike was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2000. And although John remained in Victoria, Bill moved to the Kootenays, where he was involved at the Cranbrook Racetrack, and Pat moved to Kelowna, and Mike is now in Oliver. We're pleased to welcome the Courier brothers into the Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame as 2024 pioneers. Let's hear it for the Courier brothers. Presenting the Pioneer Award to the Courier brothers are committee members George Jensen and Jim Mackay. Accepting the award for John will be his son Ryan. Accepting for Pat, his wife Lydia. And accepting for Bill is going to be Chris Courier. And we'd like to welcome them all up today, along with Mike Courier. Come on, guys. Mike Courier with Lydia, Chris, and Ryan. Give them a big hand. And we'll ask for a few words from one of your representatives. Mike.
Well, I'd like to take this moment to tell you about the Courier brothers. We had a lot of fun, met a lot of people, a lot of friends through car racing, and it was always something I was curious about. Anytime our friends were throwing a big party and there was beer and everything, they never invited more than 2 Couriers. I found out later why when my brother Bill broke my nose. Anyway, I'd like to thank the committee and all the people that worked on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Good to see you. You boys want to say anything? Lydia? No? Chris? Ryan? The Courier brothers, there they go. Give them a big hand. We thank them all for making the trip here today and being part of our 40th anniversary celebration. We'll thank them all once again, and once again we send Bill our very best wishes. Our second members to the Pioneer Award are Chuck Gus and Scott Almond's Mid-Island Engine and Machine in Duncan. Mid-Island Engine and Machine in Duncan, owned by Chuck Gus and partnered for many years by Scott Almond, has been helping the racing community for more than 30 years. They built in dyno, being one of the very few shops with a dyno. Many of the race engines used not here, just on the island, but in the mainland and throughout the Northwest for many, many years. The shop also works on domestic import diesel, industrial marine, and their own racing engines, along with a huge list of customers and their successes along the way. They're at Pokey Road in Duncan, and the racers are lucky to have them. Let's give them a big hand. Chuck Gus and Scott Almond. Dave Smith will present the award plaque to Chuck and Scott, 2 of the best machinists in British Columbia right there. They had some wonderful people work for them over the years. I don't know them all. I think we're going to take a picture over here first, Chuck, and then you guys can say something. You want to go fast? These are the guys. Congratulations, Chuck.
Wow, this is quite the honor. Well, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the support from a lot of you people that are here today, and there's some really good people that had working for me. Scott here is basically, he was actually at the shop before me when he was in high school. then he started working for us, and now he's a partner. And like I say, I've had a lot of good people working for me along the way. Actually, Rocky even here worked for me for quite a few years, and we had a lot of good times. I learned a lot about the parts business from Rocky. I say, like, we've had a lot of support from the racers at Western Speedway. You know, they supported a lot of the small business in the area. Unfortunately, Western Speedway is no longer with us. I guess the almighty dollar took the checker on that one. We've made a lot of great friends in the racing community over the years. I'm sure we lost a few along the way too. It's been a good run up to now, and hopefully I've got a few more laps left in me. It's a great honor. Thanks again.
Thanks, Chuck. Thank you, Scott. Chuck didn't really want to be, forward there and tell him I was his favorite employee. But I think I was. Scott and Chuck, give them a big hand. Watch for the decal on the side of the winning race car coming near you. The Andy Cotton Appreciation Trophy is going to be next. It all began in the early 50s when Andy, who loved the sport of racing, purchased 62 acres on Millstream Road with the money from the sale of his logging equipment, borrowed from the bank and his family. He and his son George cleared enough of the land to build a dirt track and an area for spectators. The first race at the track was on May the 22nd of 1954. Who was here then? Who was here then? Who else? I know who was there. He's here with us today. Dave Cooper, who's going to be 103 this year, was at the very first race. Give Dave a big hand. He's with us right over there. I saw Dave's high school yearbook, and I saw Jesus and Moses there. We're happy, very happy to have Dave here. We'll get back to this more, but a little side note on Dave is that the last two ceremonies that I've been to, and with the shutting down of the main Hall of Fame when Western Speedway closed, I tried to get over and talk to Dave and get his picture and my picture with him, but there was always such a crowd around him that the first time I've actually been able to see him in three ceremonies with this afternoon. So I know Dave's family's happy to have him here, and we're all happy to have him here. Let's give him a big hand, Dave Cooper. The Hall of Fame committee decided that because of all that Andy had done for racing on the island, and they dedicated the appreciation trophy in Andy Cotton's name in 1978. This year we're presenting the We're presenting Dave Ireland with the Andy Cotton Trophy. With our appreciation, Dave has been a huge part of the racing community for many years. Dave is now and has been the name behind so much of the information and history of racing on Vancouver Island, posted on the Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame website and on their Facebook page. And if you've had time to read everything that he said on Racing on Saturday Nights, the guy has an incredible memory and detail for every event. The page was started in 1991. The racing community is truly grateful to Dave for his dedication and hard work for keeping us all up to date on current events and also making us aware of how important the past accomplishments were, and they will always be a future for racing on Vancouver Island. Thank you, Dave Ireland, for all you do. Hall of Fame President and Vice President Dave Ferguson and George Jensen will now present Dave Ireland with the Andy Cotton Appreciation Trophy. Very deserved. Give a big hand. And you think I can talk? I used to work down at the shipyard when Dave worked down there, and I got paid for over an hour a day so Dave could tell me a story. Congratulations, Mr. Ireland.
Hi, everyone. I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the executive for this honor. to be awarded the very trophy that was created in 1978 to acknowledge the man who was responsible for what turned out to be 68 seasons of local auto racing is the highest compliment that I could have received in recognition of my efforts to keep the history of some of those many years alive. My own time in the sport we all love ran from 1962 until 1982. Some of the highlights of which were running the first 1955 Chevy and the last Hudson, 12 seasons behind the wheel, and being a founding father of the Old Time Racers Association, along with Ross Rocket and Norm Wilcox. When I hung up my helmet, I felt I had accomplished all I wanted to in racing, and that it was time to move on. But when the racing bug bites, sometimes it can be like a positive form of malaria. It can return. For me, it came back as a desire to pass along some of the history of Western's early years, including those in which I was actively involved. My personal archive of memorabilia had survived several housing moves, so I had only to retrieve it from our attic and start writing, which for me has been a total labor of love. Having received so much positive feedback for my recently completed history of Western's first 25 seasons has been very gratifying, and I look forward to being able to continue looking after the Hall of Fame website and the Facebook site. Again, my thanks to the executive and to you, my fellow former racers, all of us having been responsible for some of the history of the track we call Western Speedway. Thank you.
Dave has been encouraged by many people, including myself, into writing a book of the history of racing on Vancouver Island, and I think he's just about ready to do that. Dave can't hear me, so we'll just say Dave's going to write a book. Now we're going to have our 2024 inductees of the 40th anniversary Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame. And our first inductee, he'll get his plaque and jacket from committee members Dave Smith and George Jensen, is Don Cummins. Don began racing at the age of 10 in 1954 when he joined his neighbors Alex Smith Jr. and his sons Jack and Alex on their trips up island to race on the dirt track at Shearing Speedway in Cobble Hill. Towing up in the Malahat in those days was different because the tow car would spin on the loose gravel, so they would start the race car and push it up the hill. Malahat hasn't gotten much better since. During the early years of his interest in racing, he would go to Western Speedway with Reg Midgley and watch the great stock car races with the likes of drivers Dick Willoughby, Dick Varley, Dave Cooper, Jerry Sylvester, Ray Pottinger, just to name a few. Don said it was some of the best racing on the island. In 1963, Andy Cotton said that anyone who wanted to race at Western could just bring a car so long as it had a seatbelt and no windows. As fate would have it, Ross Surgener and Don were in the same study class at Mount View High School. They started talking about the idea of getting a car to race, and the rest is history. They had a friend whose mother wanted to get rid of a 38 Buick. Ross and Don bought the car, each paying $15. Then they dragged it back to the barn on Don's dad's farm. The car was in mint condition and ran like a top. They painted it red and put the 17 on the doors. The two young racers joined Vitra in 1963, finishing in second place and at the end of the season. The car was in pretty rough shape by now, and at the end of the year, Vitra was starting a new class and produced some of the best drivers over the years that followed, with some of them being Ross Surgener, Roy Smith, Roy Haslam, Rick O'Dell, and many others. In 1965, Ross drove their car to first place finish. This was the year the club bought the sponsors trophy, and they also won that by season's end. 1966 saw a split between Western Speedway and Vitra, forcing the Vitra drivers to tow to Grandview Bull in Nanaimo to race with Myra. That would be the Vancouver Island Track Racing Association and the Mid-Island Racing Association for you younger kids who haven't figured it out yet. Don finished first in points and held on to the track record at Grand View that year. This was the same year Don was voted president of Vitra. Reg Midgley was president. Vitra tried without success to work something out with North Saanich to have a race car track at the Sandown horse track in those days. 1967, Vitra was able to run at Western Speedway again, and Don became the club's president. Vitra worked hard with Vira that year, and they're racing back on the program at the track again. Don and the team raced the number 1 car, and he was voted Member of the Year. At the end of the season, Don sold the number 1 car and trailer, and during the winter built a super stock. Super stocks are a new class, and that winter they built their number 58, a 1958 Ford. In 68, Don married Diane. The Vitra members bought the newlyweds a gift, tickets to the Indy 500. Don and his wife drove their camper to the race. He later said that it was a fantastic trip and watched a great race, which was won that year by Bobby Unser. 1968, Don decided to hang up his helmet and retire from racing to focus on his family and his job. Don and his team did not only race on Vancouver Island, they also took part in races at Evergreen, Yakima, Haney, Vancouver, Langley, and Penticton. We're pleased to welcome Don Cummings into the Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame as 2024 inductee. Don Cummings. Dave Smith and George Jensen will present Don with his jacket and plaque. Congratulations, Don. Well, congratulations, Don, and welcome to the Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame.
There are a couple of things I'd like to say. Everybody knows back in the day, well, I'm beyond that. I really thoroughly enjoyed my years of racing. I met so many wonderful people, have so many good memories. And what breaks my heart is to see that racetrack gone. With all the history there and what was there, it's just a shame. I'd also like to congratulate all the other inductees, and I would also like to thank the committee, all of you, and I would like to thank Normie Wilcox and Albert Smith for digging me up from the past. Thank you, everybody, so much.
Thank you, Don. Well, all inductees get their plaque, which will hang in the Hall of Fame jacket, and their picture and likeness done by Dwight Lockhart, so they can go home. Thanks once again, a big hand, Don Cummings. Does anybody here know Jeff Montgomery? I see a member of the LA Posse is here today. Jeff Montgomery. Racing has been a part of Jeff's life since he was old enough to sit behind the wheel. He grew up at the track in the 70s and 80s watching his dad, the late Neil Montgomery, race. As a child, Jeff remembers the good times running around the grandstands, cheering on his favorite drivers. Jeff's racing career started with BMX bikes in 1982 to 1986 and competing with Team Canada. In 87, Jeff got behind the wheel of an enduro car for his first race, winning the prize of $1,000. Keep in mind, that was 1987. Pay attention, promoters. $1,000. This sparked his passion for racing right until this day. In 90 and 91, Jeff ran in the Claimer division, garnering a few wins. During the 92-93 season, he drove a stock car owned by Marty Block and Ron Simpson. For the 94 season, Jeff bought his own stock car where he ran on the dirt at Cassidy Speedway. Following in 1995, Jeff ran the Russ Lejeune Neil Montgomery sprint car, and learning how to drive with power steering was definitely challenging. During the mid-90s, Jeff raced a stock car at Western Speedway. In 1998, Jeff got his first real break when he was asked to drive the 11 Thunder car owned by some guy named Rocky Horn after Robbie Haslam broke his back that winter. 98 was the year that Rocky gave him the name the Hurricane. In 99 and 2000, Jeff drove the number 33 Sportsman car, had a fantastic season with 9 out of 12 main event wins, still losing the championship to Tim Christie. Did I laugh? Sorry. 7-time champion Tim Christie, that's what I should have said. In 2001, Jeff raced Rocky's Sportsman car, and then Rocky came up with some great idea with his buddy Bart Smith to trade the Sportsman car for the Sprint car, giving Jeff his first opportunity to race asphalt sprints. Jeff's first race was the 2001 Strawberry Cup, where he ended up in a wreck, destroying the race car, much to Rocky's wife's chagrin. After getting the car fixed, he was able to race in his first Daffodil Cup in 2001. In 2002, Jeff once again raced the 33J Sprint car owned by the Horn family, and continued on with that 33J car when it was purchased by Jeff McLeod. He ran for Jeff in 03 to 06. The team had many accomplishments in those years and a huge amount of wins. The most memorable in his career at the time would be winning the prestigious Daffodil Cup in 2004. Also in 06, Jeff ran the first year in the NSRA, garnering the NSRA championship. He began driving for his dad Neil at 07 in the Daffodil Cup, and the following year as well. 09, Neil Montgomery Motorsports built a new 33J along with the A&A Performance chassis that was run until the end of the 2019 season. In 15 and 16, Jeff pulled double duty and raced a non-wing car as well. During those years, one of Jeff's proudest moments was becoming a 6-time Daffodil Cup winner in 2019. After the 2019 season, Jeff retired. In 2023, Jeff came out of his short-lived retirement when Jerry Van Tried asked him to drive his sprint car. 2023 was a great year that Jeff got to share his love of racing with his new grandson, Beck, cheering his papa on. Who knows what 2024 will bring, but Jeff knows he is not ready to retire. Some of Jeff's accomplishments include the Will Rock Wing Championship in 2002, 3, and 4. Will Rock Non-Wing Champion in 15 and 16. Wayne's Trucking Wing Champion in 17 and 19. NSRA Championship in 2006. The Strawberry Cup in 2008, 17, and 19. And Daffodil Cup wins in 2004, 5, 6, 2016, 2018, and 2019. Racing has brought Jeff a lot of relationships and friends that he got to learn from in his younger years. He's a fantastic race car driver. He's going to have committee members Dave Ferguson, Jim Mackay, and Tracy Sesser present him with his Hall of Fame plaque, jacket, and artwork. He is in the 2024 Hall of Fame, the Hurricane. Jeff Montgomery. Pictures and stuff first, Jeff. Now it's time to hear from the Hurricane.
Feel like a spring chicken up here. Can't believe I didn't get a burn from Rocky, but see if I can do this. I'm not very good at this stuff, but we'll see what we can do here. First of all, I'd like to thank the Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame members and volunteers for putting the induction night on. I know it's a ton of work and a lot goes into make that happen. So it's a great honor to be inducted into the hall today. It means a lot to be put into the same category as the heroes I grew up watching and racing. I'm grateful for all the great opportunities I've been given over the years and didn't get here alone. I have so many great people to thank and that supported me over the years. Auto racing is a team sport. And without a great team, great people supporting you, it's impossible to have any success. When I started racing, I didn't take long for me to figure out and realize that if you want to be successful in the sport, you'd have to surround yourself with great people. I've been lucky to have many Hall of Famers, crew members, car owners, and family supporting me over the years. I'd like to take a moment to list some of the names, crew members, and all the car owners that have supported me over the years. Because without them, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you guys. So, hope I don't bore you with this stuff, but this goes way back. My stock car days, I had Mike Peely Moss, Steve Klockner, and the Duke Kent Sheldrake helping me out. We had a lot of fun. I'll give you a little stories here. We actually had the car out in West Sandwich there. We had a barn in the back of the car, and it had dirt floor, and we were scaling the car on wood planks in the shop to put a setup in the car. It was quite funny. Anyways, when I went to the dirt, I had my brother-in-law Dustin Wright and the late Roy the Ripper Ribbon. So we would drive to Cassidy and run our stock car up there, and then we'd see how many beer we could drink on the way home. That was the good old days, kids. We could get away with that stuff. And then when I got into the stock car stuff and back into Victoria, I had Jim Laurie. We always called him "It'll never work" because his motto, his deal was every time we came up with something, he's like, "It'll never work." Anyways, Rocky can relate to that. We had Wayne Harrison, we called him Ching, and we had the rocket shop, Rocky Horn. And we had great times. The car sat in Jim Laurie's shop, and every time we came to the shop, it had a new paint job on it because Jimmy was a painter. So every time we came to the shop, one week it was blue, and it was like, oh, I put a color here and put a color there. We're like, Jimmy, paint jobs don't make the car fast. Anyways. So then we got into sprint car racing, thanks to Rocky. I had the Moose, Bruce Lesbrunz. I had a ton of wins with him, great guy. Dito Lejeune, he helped us out. Johnny Sutton was there for a small stint. Jimmy Mackay behind us, he's a Hall of Famer. Had the propeller, Darren Prop, a killer demo driver, great mechanic, helped us out for years, good guy. Daryl Sorensen, he's still helping us out, really good guy. Joe McMurtry, great guy, Hall of Famer. Dave Ferguson, we call him Rubber Nuts. He's a Hall of Famer. I had the legend Russ Lejeune work on the cars, and my dad to Chief Neil Montgomery. So I've had great success with these guys. Like I said, you can't get much done in the racing world without help, and these guys were great. I had car owners. I didn't have many. I think I banked up a couple, but we keep carrying on here. So I had, this is a bit of a story here. Ron Simpson and Marty Block owned a stock car that Kent Sheldrake drove. They tore up so much stuff the year before that Kent called me and said, hey, what are you doing? And I had a stock car I needed to drive, so that's how I got in there. We actually had a meeting with Ron and Marty, and Kent's like, look, he's driving the car next year, and they're like, we don't even know this kid. And that's kind of how that started. It was pretty funny. Anyways, after that, as Rocky said, the rocket shop with Rocky and Candy Horn family took me in under their wing, put me in their stock car when Robbie broke his back, and I ran with them for a few years. And we got into a late model, we ran really good, and Rocky calls me up one day and says, hey man, we just sold the late model. I go, what? What's going on? He goes, yeah, I traded it for a sprint car. I'm like, what? What are you doing? He goes, oh, you're gonna run it this weekend? I'm like, oh my God, even worse. Anyways, he told the story. The first night out, we destroyed the thing, like wadded it up. If you want to see, there's a picture on there. Actually, the only sprint car guy that's ever hit the flag stand at Western Speedway. And the flagman for NSRA, his name was Rabbit. He thought I had a thing out for him. So I'm in Meridian, Idaho, qualifying one day, and I got sideways off turn 4, knocked the checkered flag out of his hand, qualifying. He comes down to me afterwards, and he's like, you are after me, aren't you? Which was pretty funny, anyway. I had, after that, Rocky sold the car to Jeff McLeod, and that's when we seemed to flourish in the sprint car. We went, started to travel, we won a bunch of championships and a shit ton of races, and he ended up, after 2006, we won the championship, and I told him I was done racing, it was over, and so he threw me in a trailer and parked it out in Chosen. I sat there for a year, and my dad's like, we should buy that stuff. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So he bought it, and we picked it up, brought it home, put it together, ran it a few times, and then decided to build a new car. And that's when I got together with Russ Lejeune and Neil Montgomery. I ran some USAC stuff with them, a bunch of non-wing stuff, and we ran some wing stuff, and won a ton of races with those guys. And then Russell kind of stepped away, and my dad took over. We ran that car and had a bunch of wins in it, won a bunch of Daffodil Cups. And in 2019, I ran my last race in Roseburg, Oregon, and I hung it up and thought that was it. I was sitting on the couch one day, probably watching the NASCAR race, but Jerry Van Trey phones me, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm hanging on the couch." He goes, "Do you want to drive my race car yet?" And I'm like, "I gotta ask my wife, I gotta ask the boss." And so I talked with Renee a bit about it, and I'm not getting any younger, so I said, well, I still have an opportunity to do it, and let's go do it. So we did last year, had a hell of a time, and this year I'm lucky enough to be able to drive for Rob Layton. But I want to thank all my family and friends for coming. That's all I got. So let's get on with it.
He did way better than I thought he was going to do. He does not make speeches, but he's a very deserved member. Give him a big hand. He is the Hurricane, Jeff Montgomery. Looks like he's running for town council there, isn't he? For his speech. As of note, everybody gets a jacket. Jeff declined a jacket, and he's wearing his dad's jacket. So, not too bad for the Rocket either. I didn't do bad today. Well, we thank you all for joining us here today. We are going to have door prizes, as we said before. Please, please, please bid heavily on the silent auction over there. There's some great prizes. You know, we're not running a charity event. We want to support the Hall of Fame as best that we can. I would also like to take note and send our condolences to the following people that we lost in 23 and 24, including Bill Holliday, who raced at Grandview Bowl and Western Speedway; Dennis Proud, who ran stock cars in the 60s; Herman Underwood, member of the Brunswick First Nation, he drove with Jalopy in 66; Chuck Horn, no relation, but I bet he wishes he was. He drove cars in the 50s at Western and Grandview Bowl, and he was inducted in 2008. Ken Keating, a Pioneer recipient in 2013 and a longtime track photographer. Phil Henry, longtime career at Western Speedway, Vitra, racing a roadster. He was a pit boss, and what a character, absolute character. JR, John Edgett, inducted in 2005. He helped numerous race car drivers from Vancouver Island, including Rick O'Dell, Roy Smith, Lance Wade, Harvey Brown, George Stewart, many, many more. And most recently, the happy hooker, Howie Hilton, the man we know as Howie the Hook. Give them all a big hand.
So we picked up some flowers for Barb Handyside. For all this stuff she does every year, we just want to recognize and how wonderful she does for fundraising for the Hall of Fame, and we'd like to thank you. Come on up. Again, hours and hours of running around and doing stuff for us. It's been fantastic.
a rose between two thorns, she said. Absolute perfect sentiment. So they're going to have meals served in just a short little while here. We'll do some door prizes, and like I said, like a million times, hit the silent auction. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for asking me to be here today. Cliff LePayne had another function that he had to do, but I think Cliff's back in 2025. So thank you for being here today. It's been a great time, and I really enjoyed seeing everybody. Gordy has to turn his hearing aid up. I didn't think I mentioned Phil Henry, but I did. How about Gordy Albert? There he goes, Hall of Famer. I see lots of guys. Richard Graham here, the King. Gary Kershaw is right over there. I haven't been to a function here in a long time. I went to the one last year, so I'm always happy to be a part of the Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame and Museum. Great to see the pictures here. A lot of the displays and photos and whatnot from the Hall of Fame at Western Speedway are safely kept at Davey Ferguson's place there. Some of the people got all their memorabilia back, and we hope soon to have another area that we can go to have once again Hall of Fame that we can go to every year. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say, I hope to see you all at the place to be, the Racing Oasis in the beautiful Comox Valley, Saratoga Motorsports Park. Good night.